You are listening to the Young Black Travelers podcast. Black voices chatting on experiential travel, dedicated to creating a global community of travelers. Be bold, be inspired, be spontaneous. We are YBT.
Welcome back to the Young Black Travelers podcast. We're picking up right where we left off in our South Africa conversation. We're going to dive into Ash's experience in Cape Town. All right, enjoy the episode.
All right, we are back with the Young Black Travelers podcast. We are here with our fearless leader, Asher, who recently went to South Africa. That is on everyone's bucket list, but he crossed that off his list.
It was on mine for quite some time.
But it's off your list and you went there. So we are here to pick your brain. And
Yep.
we are moving on to Cape Town. When I think of Cape Town, I think of just a beautiful, beautiful city, beautiful country. So I guess I'm hoping that you'll fulfill my dream that it is beautiful. Did Cape Town feel like one of the most beautiful cities in the world to you?
Amina, everything you have read, everything you have seen is as it is. Cape Town is ranked the most beautiful city in the world. And it is so unreal. And to know that this is Africa, and I really want to emphasize that point because I feel, in fact, the other day I was looking at some stats and Africa, the trends in travel, there are places that were popping up as trends in travel. Of course, you're going to get places in America, South America, in Europe. But there was nowhere in Africa that was trending on that list. And I think that is a problem, especially for us Black people. We should be, trying to go to Africa. And because one of the most beautiful cities in the world is in Africa, Cape Town, like we should be going there. Amina, it was breathtaking. It was out of this world. I have never seen a city like that. Honestly, the closest comparison I could make to Cape Town is Rio.
Wow.
But Cape Town takes the cake. It takes the cake of, like, the city literally sits, Table Mountain is behind it, and the city sits in the valley, and then there's the ocean. And so all of these iconic imagery that you would know about and hear about are literally in your vantage point. And Cape Town is extremely developed, just like Joburg. And so it's really heaven on earth. It's beautiful.
Wow.
It's beautiful.
I can imagine. What would you say was a moment or scene or, iconic place that took your breath away in Cape Town?
Wow. I would want to say Table Mountain, but the truth of the matter is when I went to Table Mountain, it was cloudy. I went to Table Mountain in the morning on a tour, and I actually wanted to go on my own, but I think we booked a tour that was going to the southern tip of South Africa, and that was one of the stops. So we went. By the way, I'm going to answer your question, but one of the things you guys should know is that there's winter in South Africa, and so just know when the seasons are reversed. And so whenever it's summer in the north, it's the winter in the south. So all of this, I think, added to the reason why Table Mountain was cloudy, it was raining. So I would want to say that. But honestly, I would say it was one of my most iconic views was we were at this rooftop, and I'm going to put the name of it in the description. I can't remember the name of it. Let me try to pull it up. But this rooftop, again, very developed. There's just a lot of places to see and things to do, like nightlife, all of these things. We're at this rooftop, and so you could see Table Mountain, you could see clearly the ocean, and you just see everything around you. And it was just a really nice vibe. And I think we were there, we saw the sunset at this rooftop. it's called the Silo Hotel. Silo Hotel rooftop. And so like we went there for the to see the sunset. It was beautiful. And then the sunset, and then you could see the light like hitting on Table Mountain, and then the music is played at Silo. It was just beautiful. It's Cape Town is just beautiful. So and there were many other scenes and places like this. I mean, I think everywhere you go in Cape Town, you're going to get this experience, because even when I went to Robben Island, like Robben Island gives you that view, and you should know about Robben Island. I mean, that's where Nelson Mandela was locked up and in prison for many years. You should add that to your list. But when you go there, you see Cape Town to the back. So just different places you go, you're gonna get different vantage point of Cape Town in general. But I would also say, I think when we had gone on that tour, I fell in love with this little town outside of Cape Town. It's called Muizenberg. And Muizenberg has some really nice beaches. I hear it gets really popular. But I fell in love with Muizenberg because, there were these beautiful houses that were like painted different colors. And it was just really lively, nice. You get on the beach. So Muizenberg, all within this Cape Town region, was another one of my fave.
I love that. Just so that we can get an idea of the scenery, how would you describe Joburg and Cape Town versus, other, I guess I'm trying to say, like, is it more city? Is it more, ocean, beaches? Like, is it more urban? How would you describe Cape Town versus Joburg?
Oh, that's a good question, and there's a clear distinction. You even see the distinction based on the landscape, right, or the earth, the color of the earth. Like I felt Joburg, the earth is more red. Cape Town, it's drier. It was more just a regular. But both are very like urban cityscape.
Okay.
Both have like. But I would say you want to think, because they're different. I think they're different capital for different things. So I think one of them is the political capital and one of them is the financial capital. I can't remember which is which. So both, because South Africa has different capitals. Think like the U.S. There's New York, there's Washington, Cali, L.A. So that's kind of how it is in South Africa, because there's Cape Town, Durban, Pretoria. All of these are different capital regions, and so Joburg is very developed, and like as I even said, like Stanton has its own flavor. But what makes Cape Town very different, it's more picturesque. And so in Cape Town, you are seeing more of like it's like the ocean meets the mountain. That's Cape Town. And so ocean meets the mountain, it's like Sea Town that is also like a city. And so that's why I give the comparison of Rio to Cape Town, because think about being on Copacabana and Ipanema. That's Cape Town, but I think more beautiful. Yeah. So I would say the closest comparison to Cape Town is really Rio.
That's a good comparison.
Or even Hong Kong.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I haven't been to Hong Kong yet, so that's on my bucket list. You mentioned the political capital. So did Cape Town's culture and racial dynamics differ from Joburg's? Did you feel a shift in the presence of the people? Did you feel like one was more racially difficult than the other? Like, how would you compare those?
Oh, Amina.
Let me brace myself.
Yes. So I heard this you will always hear that South Africa is extremely developed, all of that, beautiful. But you would always hear people also talk about the racial tension and the racial dynamics in South Africa. I think in Joburg, it's more palatable because yes, we're in the township. Yes, I'm in Soweto, and Soweto's now, as I said, like I feel like the gentrification is gonna happen. It's happening there, and like there are places in Soweto that are now like really well built up. But then you go drive to a little bit, maybe 10 minutes. There's another township where like there are these galvanized houses. It's still very different because Soweto is black, and the other township over there is also still very black. And you're in Joburg, and it's still very black. Even though like you see wealth, wealth is there. Because I'm telling you, when you go to South Africa, to not be missed, you will be very surprised because you see wealth all around you. I mean, you're seeing people, the Range Rovers, and you're seeing the Maseratis and all these cars, and you're like, oh crap, like y'all got money, the type thing. And so you see that in Joburg, but you're probably seeing that with black people in Joburg. But in Cape Town is more white, and it's more white, and maybe that's where it hits a little bit harder, because when we went to French Hook and Stellenbosch, the wine region, which should be on your list, extremely beautiful. I remember we were in French Hook, and as you're going through the wine valley, I remember, I'm telling you, the development in South Africa, in Cape Town, is just out of this world. When it's developed and it's built up. And so we're there, and I'm telling you, there are houses that are like even more beautiful than anywhere you'll see in California. It's like really beautiful. And so I'm there, and you're seeing these houses, and you learn about the university that is in, I think it's the French Hook or Stellenbosch University, that apparently is, Afrikaans is the language. You have to know Afrikaans before you can, you have to know Afrikaans. And so that's one of the things that you're kind of like, they speak a lot of different languages. So if you're saying that you have to speak Afrikaans to really be here, you've basically like excommunicated a good bit of people from this university, black people. But also there is where I noticed it was more glaring to me, because here's this beautiful wine valley, beautiful houses, like against beautiful mountains in the valley, like green, nice, lush. And then beautiful houses. Then right next to them, you see the settlements, the townships.
Oh, wow.
I was like, oh crap, like this is not okay. Like, and these are the people who are providing the labor, the workforce for the vineyards, and who are working the restaurants when you go to the vineyards. And so that was where it like hit hardest to me, because you see it more here, because you're seeing a clearer distinction between races, I think, between Joburg and Cape Town. Yeah.
Wow. It's interesting that you mentioned the fact that you had to speak Afrikaans, which is a variation of Dutch. So you've already ostracized a lot of Africans in Africa who wouldn't be able to go to that. I mean, I'm sure they've learned it, but wouldn't be able to attend that university without speaking Afrikaans.
Yeah.
So would you say...
Yeah, because
would you say the apartheid is more seen in Cape Town?
Oof. Yeah, it's clear in Cape Town. It's clear in Cape Town. Okay. I mean, the effects, the modern effects. Yes, it's clear in Cape Town, because you're going to see in Cape Town, and you see it in Joburg too, because I mean, if you're in Stanton, you're seeing wealth, you're seeing development, right? But I think in Cape Town, now you see like all of those shots where you're seeing those lovely houses, like some really beautiful houses against the ocean. Like you see this, and majority of people who own those properties are not black people. So, and you're also seeing a lot more white people in Cape Town. And so therefore, yes, you see the effects of apartheid more there. But I would also say it's probably very different, because maybe in Joburg it's closer, because you're like when you go to Soweto, you're going to see the deep townships, and Yeah, but I mean, maybe it's everywhere, but it's just different effects at different parts and where you go and how it hits.
Okay. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So you would classify Joburg as like the Black Mecca in Atlanta, so to speak?
I and maybe that and maybe that's why that show I keep getting the name mixed up, Young Famous Africans or Young Rich Africans, whatever it's called, where Swanky and all of them is on it, is actually based in Joburg, because Joburg, like, there is Black wealth in Joburg. Like, you see it as well. Like, when I was in that hotel and I'm looking at these suburban areas, I'm like, wow, these houses are nice, and clearly there are Black people who are living here. I'm just impressed, right? So, yes, Joburg, I think, is your Black Mecca. Cape Town, that's where the white people are. Yeah.
Well, that's good to know. It's interesting that I think you juxtapose Rio to Cape Town, and you see that in Rio as well, where it's like you see a lot of wealth, and then you do see the settlements right next to it. And it's very shocking sometimes when you see it for the first time. So I guess switching gears from apartheid to something more pleasant. What adventure?
But hold on, before you go there, I've always, so three countries I usually like put close together as it relates to their history and their racial history are South Africa, Brazil, and the US. Like, when you look at their histories and you start learning their histories, you're recognizing that there are similarities between all three. Certainly South Africa and the US, right? Like, the Jim Crow apartheid system was, same structure, came from the same theory. But also Brazil is also grafted into that. So that's why you probably may see stuff like that, because those favelas, it's called a different name in Brazil, but it's kind of all connected to the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. So back to my question. What experience or adventure would you recommend everyone to try at least once in Cape Town? You did mention the vineyard, so we'll keep that. You did mention the vineyard. I'm guessing is probably top of your list.
Top of my list. You got to go to Franschhoek, Stellenbosch. I mean, South Africa is known for wine, so definitely go there. Do the wine tram. Beautiful. But you do want to also go to the tip of South Africa. So we went to the Cape of, well, this wasn't the tip of South Africa. This was the most western tip. When I booked it, I thought it was the most southern tip, which is another excursion. So have those differentiation in your mind. If you want to go to the most southern tip, that's different. I went to the Cape of Good Hope, which is the most western tip. But that was also very beautiful because, as I said, you're driving through different, maybe small towns, as I said, Muizenberg, which I fell in love with. And then you get to this southern area and you're going to see penguins. We went to Boulder Beach, but also there are parks down there that you could see baboons. Apparently, depending on the seasons you go, you can see cobras and all of these things. I didn't want to see that, but that was a really nice experience for me. But again, I would also say you can't go to Cape Town without going to Robben Island. You have to go to Robben Island. And maybe I should have started with that because I'm telling you, you go to Robben Island for history. So it's a beautiful experience when you would have gone to Joburg and you hear the history there and the effects of apartheid. And now you're basically where a lot of this movement and the struggle was happening. There in Cape Town, where the leaders were, and we're in the prison. And my tour was actually done by one of the persons who was in prison with Nelson Mandela. And I'm telling you, Amina, it was emotional. I was holding back tears. I was outside and I'm trying to hold back tears. I remember this lady, she stepped away because it was heavy. Because imagine a person who was in prison leading the tour and is telling you about the torture that he experienced. And he's walking you through the actual cells that they were in. And he's telling you, you know, how they separated, like how the separation happened, because apparently they separated the leaders, so Nelson Mandela and let's say whomever leader would have been in certain prison cells versus the regular people, because that's how they try to keep information from spreading. And he would tell you like how they got information. I think he talked about how they used the cooks, the people in the kitchen were the people who actually spread information. But then, like, he's really like sharing it. It's firsthand personal experience. And I remember when he talked about his mother coming to visit, because I guess he was from Durban, and Durban is not necessarily close to Cape Town. And he would talk about the journey that his mother would have to take from Durban. Sometimes, again, when we learn history, especially going to school in the US, we learn it from a different perspective, right?
Yeah.
So, and we don't delve deeply into South African history, but sometimes sometimes we talk bad about white people, and I'm usually very careful in how we talk about races. We know the effects of what has happened by some race, but everyone is not castigated to those categories, because they're just like in Jim Crow, there were white people who were allies of black people. It was the same thing with apartheid. And he talked about how you know, when his mother would come to see him in prison, and he was talking about the mental anguish that he would have gone through because they tortured them, right? And so he was talking about that, and he would talk about how when his mother came, how I guess his mother's bosses were allies of the struggle, and he was like, you know, they didn't necessarily take away their wages, his mother's wages. So she obviously couldn't just come and go back the same day. Sometimes she may be there for the week, and he said the good thing was that the bosses would still pay her for the week. I was like, that is so beautiful. And so to hear that was, I'm telling you, like, that probably topped a lot of the experiences. I mean, I had a lot of powerful experiences in South Africa. It was like sensory experience at every turn, but that one was just like profound. If you really want to learn about like the struggles and like how we can be united as a people, but learn more about South Africa and all that, you have to do Robben Island. And I can't say that you're going to get a tour by someone who was in prison, but if you land on this guy, which probably you need to go like soon because he's still alive and hopefully he remains for a little while. If you get him, you're going to have a great experience.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's so powerful. Wow. I got chills.
Yeah.
Wow. Speaking about what we learned about South Africa in school, did any of your tours mention like the early humans? Because we were told, you know, the first Africans were found in South Africa. Did any of the tours mention those?
Yeah, they briefly, I think the tribe, I can't remember their name. You would hear about them, but maybe I was focused more on like the racial stuff, but I didn't necessarily dig deeply into that. I think that was mentioned briefly, and what I also learned is that they're also not the majority tribe currently in South Africa, because I think they have moved now to places like Botswana. So it was brief and passive.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So Cape Town. So I guess in closing, Asher, what would you say makes Cape Town a must-return country, personally, from your perspective?
Oh, and I'm gonna return. Like, it is that country that I like. I've been now to about 45 countries, and South Africa, Cape Town is one of the countries that I have to go back to. And the reason why is the beauty. It's one of the most breathtaking countries that I've been to. and I felt at home. I felt, people, a lot of times we're emphasizing the crime because, I talk to different people. People talk about like the dangers of South Africa and Joburg, but there are safe areas, as I talked about, Sandton and Rosebank and those other areas that people can stay in. And we need to emphasize those more and so more people can go. But I am returning because South Africa, Joburg, and Cape Town, I really want to go back to Durban and I want to see Pretoria. I really want to go back because Africa is like one of the places that, it's home. And I would also say, for travelers who are trying to experience Africa, like you want to break Africa up into like chunks. So there's West Africa, and they've already broken themselves up into these chunks. Like there's ECOWAS and there's East Africa and all of that. And in these regions, it's easier to travel around different regions. So it's easy to travel around East Africa, West Africa. So you also, if you want to travel around South Africa, which I don't think we talk a lot about the southern part of Africa, like it is beautiful. And I think it's extremely easy for even solo travelers to travel that region, because I would go back to South Africa or the southern part of Africa, South Africa, and I would go to Botswana. I would go to Mozambique. I would go to just different areas in that region because it's extremely easy to go to these places. Because when I drove to Johannesburg, Botswana was not too far away. It was like my cell phone is picking up signal from Botswana. So it's probably like it was another hour before I get to Botswana. So that's another reason why I would say I would go back, because I really want to go to Botswana. I want to go to Namibia. Like these regions are beautiful places. I mean, when we talked about the ocean meets the city, Namibia for me is where the ocean meets the desert, and I really got to see that.
That's such a beautiful gem. You know how you describe it. The mountains meet the ocean meets the city, city meets the other whatever. But so is there anything else that comes to mind when you think of Cape Town? Any encouragement for travelers who may be a little nervous about going to Cape Town because of the history? Like, what would be your encouragement to young Black travelers who are thinking of going to South Africa?
Yeah, I would say honestly, just dig into it. You always want to connect with locals. That's always where we start with our advice, because I can tell you one thing, and my experience probably was a lived experience, but you also do want to connect with locals because they're also going to help you a little bit more. Because even when I talked about finding the local spot, it was the local who actually took me there. But then again, there are times when you may not feel well. If you're going to go and stay in Joburg itself, like Joburg City itself, which we won't advise, you're going to feel unsafe. But the country, I think, in general, if you like follow the advice of travelers and people who know, you will be safe. When you go to Cape Town, you have to go to Gold Restaurant. You have to go to Gold Restaurant. It's a taste of Africa. One of my best dining experiences to date. It was think Broadway show Lion King meets dinner. That was the Gold Restaurant. And you have to book early because apparently they're already booked out until for months in advance. So add that to your list.
And you said Gold Restaurant in Cape Town?
Gold Restaurant.
Gold Restaurant. Wait, so what made the experience so wonderful? Was it the food, or was it just, the atmosphere, the aesthetic? What was it?
Both.
Both. Okay.
Everything. I remember when someone shared with me that I should go, and I looked it up online, maybe through like TripAdvisor. Honestly, the pictures that were shown honestly weren't the best pictures, honestly, from what I had seen. So I almost missed it. Thank God my friend Stella, who I went with, made reservation through her card. And it was very hard to get reservations. And so we always talk about travel cards. She uses the American Express card. The concierge was able to get us a spot. But it was everything. It was the aesthetic. It was the performances. Like they're performing, like
Wow.
literal Nachi Banya Badadin Cinnabar type performance.
Oh, I love it.
It was it was good. All around has to be on your list and book in advance. Yeah.
Gold Restaurant. All right. That's on my list.
Mm-hmm.
Alrighty, Asher. Thank you for your wonderful, wonderful description of Cape Town. You've inspired us. I know you've inspired me. I'm already secretly looking up hotels on the side for Cape Town. So we're going to take another break, and then we will come back with our closing conversation.
All right.
Alrighty.
All right, so before we jump back in, we wanted to take a moment to say thank you to everyone who joined us at the Governor's Ball on Wednesday, June 24th. So whether you attended, volunteered, or even represented the young Black travelers throughout the event, thank you for showing up with such incredible energy and helping to make the experience a memorable one. Events like these are about so much more than just being there. They're about building connections, gaining new experiences, and continuing to grow together as a community. We hope you had an amazing time, made some great memories, and maybe even stepped outside of your comfort zone. So, from all of us here at the Young Black Travelers, thank you for being part of this journey. We can't wait to create even more opportunities like this with you. Now, let's get back to today's episode.
So we are back from break. We are the Young Travelers podcast. And now our fearless leader, Asher, is in the hot seat. So you recently went to the motherland of all motherlands. You went to South Africa this year. So, Asher, we have some questions for you.
Okay.
What surprised you most about Joburg?
Wow.
Yeah, like what surprised you most about this journey?
Yeah, the journey and Joburg particularly, I think it was just so real when I touched down on South Africa, because I've always been fascinated with Africa as a whole. I mean, I was born in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, but I've always followed just South African history. I've always loved Nelson Mandela. I've always been up to like reading up about apartheid and the connection between apartheid and Jim Crow and just the U.S. struggle. And so I think one of the most surprising things when I went to South Africa was more so the settlements, and the settlements was one of the things that shocked me the most. But before we even get there, I would say the beauty of South Africa and Joburg is paramount. You know, when you land, you are honestly, you're seeing beauty. It's a beautiful country and it's a well-developed country. So I would say that too was shocking, because when Westerners, people who have never been to Africa, when we think about Africa, some people just really, the image that is in their mind, and especially what the media talk about when they show Africa, they usually show the poverty of Africa.
Okay.
But South Africa is extremely developed. It was mind blowing of how developed it was. But so the development and the settlements was a big surprise for me.
Okay. So going back to something you said, settlements. Could you explain what settlements are? So,
interestingly, when you go to South Africa, there's the like Soweto is a settlement in South Africa, and so I said settlement, I meant township, right? So the townships are there, and that was extremely surprising. So the townships are like, there's Soweto, and I think there are many others that came about, I think, during the time of apartheid, where those lands were given, or Black South Africans were forced into those townships. Soweto is one of the ones that we know, like many people who would have heard about Soweto. Like I know about the Soweto Gospel Choir. Like that's history right there.
Yes.
But that's not the only settlement or township in South Africa. There are many others, and there are many others from Cape Town to Joburg. And so that's what I mean when I say settlement townships. Clarify.
Okay, definitely. So how did visiting places like Soweto shape your understanding of South African history?
Yeah, I think it's pivotal that you actually go to Soweto, because it is in Soweto that you actually start to understand the true history of the struggle. You're not going to understand the struggle without going to townships like Soweto, because again, Soweto was the root of a lot of it. And you'll hear, especially if you do tours, and I would highly recommend that you do tours, because you don't want to go to Soweto just walking through Soweto. I think, and I'm not one of those travelers who just always tell people to just pay for a tour or just like spend money. But I think this is where you actually want to spend money for a tour, because it's very different. This is not a place that I think you just want to wander on your own. You want to get the history, have a tour guide actually walk you through the history, because you're going to be learning things that honestly you would have never learned in your history class.
Yeah.
I've gone to school in the US, so we don't talk a lot about South African history. But here you're going through Soweto and you're seeing the house of Nelson Mandela. You're seeing the house of Desmond Tutu. Literally, they're next to each other. It's like, well, it's down the road from each other. So like that also give you a context of this history. Like, okay, so Desmond Tutu lived down the road from Nelson Mandela. So maybe it would have been easier for them to actually like work together because they were also locked up together. So like there's context there. But also I learned during this tour that there was a upper crust side of Soweto, which Desmond Tutu's house is kind of on the better, more beautiful side. By the way, I think Soweto is one of those places in South Africa that is going to be gentrified. Like if we're thinking Brooklyn,
yeah,
Soweto is going to be gentrified. Like whatever it was back then is not what it is now, and it's not what it is going to be in the next few years. So like, because there's a vibe like on that street of where Nelson Mandela house is and Desmond Tutu house. Like it is like the hub. There's music, restaurants. It is like lively. But yeah, that's where the history is. And you're going to learn about a lot of things. You're going to learn about where some of the struggles happen. You're going to learn about key figures and all of these things, especially if you actually had followed up on some of it maybe in school, or you watch movies like Sarafina. A lot of things are going to become real to you because you're here. You're going to be emotional. And I would also say, make sure that you actually, so there's the Soweto tour where you would actually go where everybody's going to land and, you know, you're going to go through that tour, but you should also now go through like the real where the settlements are. And I think certain tour guides decide to take you there. Now, this is where actually the shanties or the shacks are, and you want to probably go there as well so you can actually get a sense and hear the stories and understand a little bit more.
I love that. And I love that you mentioned booking a tour versus going by yourself, because you can be walking through these places and miss really big, important, you know, places and people, you know, things that you wouldn't have seen if you were by yourself. But speaking of traveling by yourself, you know, there is a reputation for South Africa in Joburg. So do you feel, is Joburg's reputation for danger fair, or has your experience challenged that narrative?
No, that's a good question. In short, it's two sides to it, right? I don't think it's fair. I don't think it's fair because I think a lot of times when we talk about big topics or countries, we just hear the fact that it is unsafe and we don't put it in full context. So Joburg City, the capital, may have crime, and it does. There's crime there, and when you do go, when you meet with a lot of tour guides and you meet with a lot of locals, they will tell you not to walk Joburg by yourself. So it is true that Joburg, the capital, is unsafe. But one of the things I don't think a lot of travelers understand, I mean, South Africa is a huge country. And so when we think about that, we're going to think about the context of Joburg only, that Joburg is unsafe. But what most people would tell you who've traveled there, you probably shouldn't stay in Joburg City. There are like little cities right around Joburg. So I stayed in Stanton, and there's Rosebank. And these were some of the areas that were in the struggle, like during apartheid, like the white people occupied Stanton and Rosebank, and they pushed the black people to Soweto. But it's in Stanton, and there are others than Stanton and Rosebank. And so I stayed in Stanton, and Stanton is kind of where it's at. Like the vibe is in Stanton, and oh my God, it's beautiful. So I felt safe in Stanton. So I won't recommend that when you go to South Africa, that you book a hotel in Joburg, because that's kind of the business center. You want to probably stay in places like Stanton, Rosebank, and other areas like that. And these areas are right around Joburg, the capital. And maybe if you want to explore Joburg, you probably may go maybe a day and get a guided tour by someone who knows Joburg, maybe in a car or something. But yes, it is unsafe. People talk about the robberies, people snatching and all of these things, but you can have a really good time by just staying in other areas like Stanton, where I stayed. And I actually stayed at the Stanton City Hotel. I think that's the name of it. So yeah, you can go there and feel safe. And I felt safe.
That's good to know. And I love that you mentioned staying outside of the big cities, because that's where a lot of times you get to meet the real locals. Yeah. And speaking of locals, what would you say is like, what local experience or conversation stayed with you the most from Joburg?
Well, I mean, I would say certainly when I did the tour of Soweto, that's where that's where I spoke with a lot more locals. And in fact, I was in South Africa for about 7 days or a week, and Joburg was the shortest stint of my trip. So I think I was there for about 3 days. It was in Soweto that I felt like I had most interaction, because I had done the safari and all of these things. But to really hear the people talk about their local experience, to hear the history, also to eat one of the local dishes of Soweto. And what I learned is that each township has their own food. And I need to remember the name of it, and I'll drop it in the description for you. But basically, it's a sandwich with fries and like one of those, we call it bolingna, the thin slices of meat, like that you fried, bologna, so they put that on it, and they may put like ketchup, and so that's the food of Soweto, and it was actually really good, right? So
sounds good.
You're sitting there, you're drinking. I usually try to drink a local beer, drink local beers when I'm in a country. That's one of the things that I do, drink their local beer, and you're just talking to people. I remember also I was on the tour with, and though this is not a local conversation, but it is also meeting and connecting with people. And so on the tour, there was this family who was traveling from Costa Rica, I think. And it was just so, I think, interesting and refreshing to see that. They were traveling through Africa for quite a long time. They were going to do this. But I think what they showed, we're in America and we have all of these opportunities. And then you have people who are from places like Costa Rica who's actually taking advantage of these things. Not that they don't have access, but I feel here in America have a lot more access to the world than many places. And many of us don't take advantage of those opportunities. And I was literally sitting there with it, They said they were going from, I think they went from Costa Rica to Brazil and Brazil to South Africa. And then they were going to go to like Mozambique and just go around. And it was fascinating to me. Really fascinated.
I can see that because, to your point, as Americans, our passport holds weight. We don't have that much, we don't have that many issues when we are applying for visas to other countries. And someone from Costa Rica, could just go through all of that trouble just to go to South Africa. I love that. That's amazing.
It was. I mean, and another point too was that I think it was an older couple and their children. And again, we're young Black travelers. We're really pushing for young people and people of color, whatever age you are, to really travel. And I think that's one of the points that we really need to anchor, especially if you live in one of these countries with access to the world, like the US, major cities like New York, Atlanta, California. Like there are different gateways that you have access to. So take advantage of it because other people are doing it as well.
Definitely, most definitely. And would you say, for someone who's visiting South Africa for the first time, would you recommend them starting in Joburg, and why?
I would actually recommend they start. Well, yeah, I would. I mean, my itinerary I think made sense. You could start either way, right? I think starting in Joburg makes sense if you want to because remember, Joburg, I feel, is where Joburg is the hub and anchor for safaris. So most of the parks are going to be closer to Joburg, hence why we started the trip in Joburg. And so I would definitely recommend you start in Joburg because the two main gateways to South Africa are Cape Town and Joburg. Those are where most international flights are going to go. I mean, I think United and Delta fly to both destinations from the US. And if you're in the UK or in Europe, like all of those airlines, British Airways, Air France, all of them go to those cities. So you can do it either way. You can do Cape Town to Joburg, but I would say you have to do both cities. If you want to, and it's also the experience that you're trying to have as well, because as I said, Joburg is where the safari hubs are. So if you're trying to go to Kruger National Park, you're gonna go through Joburg. And if you're going to Kruger National Park, you're probably gonna be there for a little while because Kruger is not particularly close, like an hour. It's a little drive, but it is closer than Cape Town. So if you're really looking for that safari experience, then Joburg is going to be your anchor. If you're looking for like the beach and the coastal experience, then Cape Town is where your anchor will be. But you want to go to Joburg because I feel that Joburg is where the hub, the music of Amapiano is. Like, that's where it's at. It's in Cape Town too. But there's a different, I'm not sure if you're going to ask these questions, but there's a different vibe.
Yeah.
In Joburg. It's different. So you're getting, I think, two different vibes. Though it's all South Africa, I think if you're looking for those DJ parties, which they're all over, but South Africa is known for that, right? But I feel like the hub, the heart of the music is more so like a Joburg vibe. Cape Town, it's there in Cape Town, and I'm not gonna say it's not in Cape Town, but I think it's more. So while in Joburg, I think we found this Uber driver who actually took us to a very local spot. I think is in Tembisa. That's where we went. So one of the things you want to do when you go to South Africa, you follow the DJs. So maybe that's one of the ways that you're going to know where the parties or the Amapiano DJs are playing. You follow DJs. So I guess he would know where they would be following them, and he took us to where one of those parties would be happening. I felt that's where we had the better experience, because what we had done before, again, as I said, we stayed in Stanton, and Stanton is the lit area. That's where most of the nighttime vibes will happen in Stanton. And so I remember one of the guys, when I came there, he was like, "Oh, just down the road, there's one of the spots." And yes, down the road was, when I say down the road, like 5 minutes by car down the road.
Yeah.
was was where the parties were happening, and we went to this spot that I think had about 3 or 4 spots, like clubs or whatever you want to call them. But I think when we went to them, they were very stuck up. They weren't what we were looking for as it relates to, you've seen those videos like South Africa, the rave, the DJ rave. Like that's not what we were getting. Like we were getting people coming to a club, sitting down, bottle service, drinking, vibing lightly to the, that's not what we were looking for. We're looking for like people are dancing. And so I remember when we got into Uber, we talked about it, and he was like, oh, we exchanged numbers, and he messaged us on Monday. He picked us up and he took us to that local spot. So that happens a lot in Joburg. By the way, Monday apparently is the time to go out in Joburg.
Oh,
not
wow.
Saturday, not Sunday, Monday. And that was our reaction. I think there's a name for it. They call it like Joburg Monday or something along that line. So when you go, know that, yeah, you have the weekend, but Monday is the day.
Is that their way of fighting the Monday scaries, making it a party day instead of a work day?
I feel that's what it is.
Okay.
I feel that what it is, because it was very surprising, because everywhere you go, people party on the weekend. They may start from Thursday or certainly Friday, but by Monday everything is closed. So when we heard this, we were so surprised. So I really think it is their way of doing it, but it makes sense. And I think it's a very Joburg thing. So when you're going to Joburg, make sure you're there on a Monday, that you could actually experience the litness in Joburg on a Monday.
Wow, I love that. That's such a fun tip that you wouldn't get unless you go to South Africa, and you've given us such a beautiful glimpse of Joburg. I feel like you touched on all the senses, the smells, the taste, how you felt there. And I think you've inspired us to finally book our flights to Joburg. I know I am. Hopefully next year.
Joburg.
Yeah, Joburg. Well,
okay.
Joburg, Cape Town next, but we do have to take a break, and we will be back, and you will be able to pick your brain more about Cape Town.
That definitely.
Alrighty.
As we wrap up the season, we're excited to share that our season finale looks a little bit different. We packed up our bags and took some of the Young Black Travelers members on the road to Gatlinburg, Tennessee. Just like last year, we partnered with Getaway Society, and we recorded our season finale at one of their vacation homes. And we were surrounded by the beauty of the Smoky Mountains. So, not to give too much away, we're just going to say that we had great conversation, incredible views, and a few moments you don't want to miss. So, make sure you're subscribed and following Young Black Travelers blog, because trust us, you won't want to miss how we close out this season. All right, now let's get back to today's episode to finish it off.
Wow. Well, so we're back. I guess I just took back the mic from Amina, because she's been doing such a phenomenal job in hosting this conversation. Listen, Amina, give yourself a round of applause. This was your first podcast episode that you've been recording with us. Such powerful questions, actually, and thought-provoking questions that you've been asking. And she has a few more questions that she has to ask. Hopefully you've been learning a lot, because the questions that Amina has been asking and my responses honestly has been sparking, Ashley, you got to go back. You got to go back. You got to go back. But, like we do on all of our podcast episodes, we take the time out to shout out someone who's really been engaged in following the Young Black Travelers community. And on this episode, we're going to be shouting out someone who's actually in the YBT tribe. So by the way, if you don't know, we have a WhatsApp community of travelers and just different professionals who like traveling. Again, YBT is centered around this mission of bringing community together, but also bringing community together to support young people to travel. We have like a professional group in there, all of these things. But she's been in some of these chats on the tribe, but she also is engaging on our Instagram, and her Instagram handle is Mommy's Journey, and it's MOMMYZJOURNEY. And she's actually a flight attendant for JetBlue Airlines. I don't think it's the airline our host fly for, but you know they are they are a competitor here within North America. Actually, I mean, I would say I've flown them many times. A great option, you know, they're a great option. I actually think JetBlue is in one of those precarious positions where it's not particularly mainline, but it's also not low cost. Even sometimes people call them low cost, but they're not low cost because their tickets are not necessarily cheap, and they do have like first class or business class options. So definitely check them out. Check out her page if you want some travel inspo, or maybe you have questions and you want to reach out and be like, hey, Mommy's Journey, Kayla, give me some advice on how I become a JetBlue flight attendant, or this, that, and the third. You can reach out to Amina as well. But these are resources definitely for you to help you on your travel inspo and your next journey. Amina, the mic is yours.
All righty. By the way, I love JetBlue. I don't get a chance as often to fly on other airlines because I'm very loyal to mine, but JetBlue is wonderful. You actually recommended it to me, and that's why I flew it one time.
Ooh, okay. They're really, really good. They're really good. So let's say both of us has recommended it. So those are options. There's some airlines I don't think I would recommend, but at least you have two good options here that we're gonna share with you. Yeah,
definitely. All right, Asher. So I guess my final two questions or two thoughts I would like to ask you is, after you've been to the continent of Africa 4 times, am I correct?
Mm-hmm.
4?
Yeah.
So how has Africa shaped, you know, the way you see yourself, your identity, your purpose as a traveler?
Wow. Actually, 3 times I've been thinking about it. But to answer your question, honestly, it has shown me that the world is not representing our story as it should. Our story should be told, and that's why it's important that we tell our own story. That's why it's important that we have media outlets and organizations like Young Black Travelers who's really promoting Africa, because the narrative of Africa that we have known often is poverty, orphanage. And though those things are true, we don't talk about the beauty of Africa. We don't talk about the opportunities in Africa. How many times have many travelers heard about places like Namibia? Like Namibia is really top of my list now. I really want to go, but we don't promote places like that. We don't promote places like Angola. A lot of times when we talk about Africa, we hear the struggle. We hear about, you know, the old governments that are not functioning and all of these things. And so I think from my identity, what I've been recognizing is that when we let other people tell our story, that's the narrative that will be told of us, right? And so we got to take the narrative into our hands and tell the story for ourselves. But also, we have to see ourselves as a unified body. You know, we are Black. We're Black people. And I know at different places, wherever we go, we may have different identities like Afro-Latina, African-American, Afro-Caribbean. But at the end of the day, we are Black. And we all came from the motherland. And I think we have to see ourselves as one. And when we see ourselves as one, that's when we are going to really rise up and be powerful. And I've always say this especially from a Caribbean perspective. Post-colonization, the Caribbean has consistently looked to Europe and the Americas for help. And they probably have to at this point because these are the powers. But I always ask myself, What if Africa united? And what if Africa became the United States of Africa? And Africa was now the superpower for a black nation. Maybe that's the Wakanda that we're looking for. The United
I was just
States
about to say
Africa.
it.
So, and you know, and that's every time I go to Africa, that's literally what I think about. I mean, and when I go to places where black representation is well represented, that's just what I think about. Like, we as black people need an anchor, and honestly, that anchor is Africa. It's nowhere else. It's not the US. It is not a Caribbean nation. It's not Brazil. It has to be Africa. But there has to be a responsibility now on Africa to really unite and come together. I've always been a Pan-Africanist, and I will always be. And I think that's what needs to happen. I don't know if I'm going to see it in my lifetime, but I would hope that one day Africa unites, so that when we see ourselves, we are telling our own stories, and we are showing the world that we are powerful, and we're not showing it from our silos. We are showing it as a collective.
Yes. And to add on to your point, one of the goals of Young Black Travelers is to encourage young Black people to travel, you know, and it's important, I think, even for something I encourage my just Black American friends to do, is to travel to a country where it's predominantly Africans and Black people, because it's something empowering seeing your people everywhere, seeing your government officials as Black, seeing your bus drivers as Black, you know, everyone is Black. So it really empowers you, because you think, oh, wow, this is where I'm from. This is, you know, this is the norm. We're not the minority everywhere, you know, we're the majority in Africa. So I really love what you said about that.
Exactly.
And I guess my last question would be, what do you want listeners to take away from your experiences? Like, what would you say to someone who's considering their first trip to Africa?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say, don't be oblivious, especially particularly about South Africa. Don't be oblivious about race. There are real experiences that happen to South Africans that are there, right? And there are parallels. And I think that we should travel with that open mind to understand the struggle, right? So for me, going to South Africa was always about understanding apartheid, like hearing them firsthand, being there and feeling it. We should not go oblivious to this fact, especially from an American perspective. And also recognize the similarities. Like, there are always things that I say, if we, I mean, maybe I like history, and maybe many people don't, and maybe many people don't see the connections. Like, I'm also a singer, I'm a Christian, gospel music. One of the connections I've always made, South African, like, music is a big thing, and that sound, that same gospel sound that we have here in America, is the same sound in South Africa. And I always so is there a sound that came from this struggle and that has created this sound? And we hear stories about that. Actually, that's what history talks about. And so I would say, like, go to a place like South Africa, understanding the context. But yes, while you're in that, also enjoy, because there's a lot that South Africa has to offer you. It's a beautiful country. It's a beautiful country. There are beautiful cities, but you know, there are also more than Cape Town and Joburg. There's Durban. There is Pretoria. So expand, I guess, what people normally go to. And that's why I said, like, the next time I'm going, I have to get to Durban. And again, each place is going to give you a very different experience. So yeah, that's what I would say. I hope travelers literally go with that open mind to learn. And that's how we should be traveling, with an open mind and an open heart, not with your perspective as wherever you're from. Because if you're from the UK and you're listening to this, you may go there with a UK perspective, but you have to, like, put yourself, yes, your experience is your experience, but try to put yourself in their shoe and try to understand it, live and learn, and maybe you're going to come back a better person and make our world a better place.
Oof. I love that. Preach, preacher. No, that's beautiful. And it helps us to, as Americans, our country, just, a lot of other listeners are listening from other places, but speaking primarily to Americans, we are in a bubble. We only have Canada and Mexico connected to us. So a lot of Americans don't travel outside of the States, and it does make you a more well-rounded person to see other cultures and to not put your own political ideologies on it, but to experience it from their point of view, which I think is so important. That's a really good point that you made. Very good point.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. So Asher, thank you so much. This has been, I'm inspired. I am so inspired to go.
Oh, this is good. Thank you.
You're welcome. So, we want to thank our guests for listening. And, after you've listened, please share this podcast to encourage other people to experience South Africa, and not just Cape Town and Joburg, but all of the other countries there. Follow us on all of our social media platforms. If you're interested in Young Black Travelers merch, reach out to us. We are on Facebook, Instagram, Threads. Oh, I didn't know we were on Threads. All right, Threads. And visit the website, youngblacktravelers.com. And happy travels.
Happy travels.
All righty.